Okay, last chapter, sulfur and sulfuric acid. So let's go through this very quickly. First of all, we're starting with sulfur because this is the first substance from which we start to make sulfuric acid. So sulfur as a metal, as a non-metal, it is a yellow solid. It is obtained from underground volcanic deposits. So under the volcanoes you have sulfur deposits, or it is obtained from the sulfides of metals such as zinc sulfide, which we mentioned in extraction of zinc as zinc blende. What do we use sulfur for? Basically to make sulfuric acid. So to make sulfuric acid, we start from sulfur. Now, the sulfur dioxide is obtained by burning the sulfur in air. So this is actually the first step in producing sulfuric acid. The sulfur is burnt in air to form sulfur dioxide. Now, we're going to go on and use this sulfur dioxide to make sulfuric acid, but we can also use the sulfur dioxide gas for bleaching wood pulp, for making paper. Do you know how to make paper? They make paper from the stem of trees, wood. They cut the wood into very small pieces, add water, so it forms what we call a pulp, a sort of soft mixture. Now, we need it to be white to make paper, so we add sulfur dioxide to bleach it so that it becomes white. So one of the uses of sulfur dioxide is bleaching wood pulp for making paper. Another use of sulfur dioxide is it is used as a preservative in food. So most of the processed meats, luncheon meats and so on, they have a little bit of sulfur dioxide to preserve it from getting spoiled, because the sulfur dioxide kills the harmful bacteria that could spoil it. Okay, so we've already burned sulfur to form sulfur dioxide. Now we're going to use the sulfur dioxide to make sulfur trioxide. This is a contact process, and this is used to go on and make sulfuric acid. So the contact process is burning sulfur dioxide in air to give sulfur trioxide. Again, this is a reversible reaction, so you need to know the conditions. In order to obtain enough sulfur trioxide or highest yield of sulfur dioxide, we do this at a pressure of 2 atm. Remember, the Haber was done at what? The Haber was done at a pressure of 200 atm. The contact process to form sulfur trioxide is done at 2 atm. It is done at the same temperature as Haber, 450 degrees, but we're using a different catalyst. Now, the catalyst here is vanadium pentoxide, or V2O5. This forms sulfur trioxide. Now, how do we go on from sulfur trioxide to make sulfuric acid? Theoretically, you can just add water to the sulfur trioxide, it forms sulfuric acid. But we don't do that because it is a very exothermic reaction and it will boil over. So instead of just adding water to the sulfur trioxide, then we go in a sort of roundabout way. We add a little bit of concentrated sulfuric acid. This, with the sulfur trioxide, forms something called oleum, H2S2O7, and then we slowly dilute the oleum to form sulfuric acid. So there we got sulfuric acid. Now, what do we use sulfuric acid for? It is used for many things. Used to make fertilizers, ammonium sulfate fertilizer. It's used to make detergents, used to make pesticides, paint, pigments, the colors in paint. It is used in car batteries, so the acid present in the car battery is sulfuric acid, and it is used to make plastics. So these are main uses in general of sulfuric acid. And that means, okay, these are the uses: make ammonium sulfate fertilizer, car batteries, to make plastics, to make paint, pigments. But then we have concentrated sulfuric acid and we have dilute sulfuric acid. So let us talk about the difference between the concentrated sulfuric acid and the dilute. Of course, the concentrated sulfuric acid is something that has very little water in it. Now, what are the properties of concentrated sulfuric acid? First of all, it's colorless, odorless, extremely corrosive. So usually we never use concentrated sulfuric acid in our experiments in the lab. It is a slightly thick, oily liquid. It's a weak electrolyte. Remember, to be an electrolyte, it's a weak acid. To be an acid, it has to dissolve in water to form H+ ion. So it doesn't have that much of water in it, and it doesn't really have a very low pH. It's a weak acid. So remember that concentrate sulfuric acid is a weak acid. It's also a poor electrolyte because it does not ionize to give a lot of H+ ions. So remember that the concentrate sulfuric acid is a weak acid. It does not conduct electricity that well. Now, what do we use it for? We use it in drying agents because concentrate sulfuric acid absorbs water from gases. So if in an experiment he's passing a gas through sulfuric acid and he's saying, well, suggest why it is passed through sulfuric acid, it's probably to remove the water from the gas. It's also used as a dehydrating agent also because it removes water from compounds such as carbohydrates. Okay. The dilute sulfuric acid now has a lot of water, so it ionizes completely in solution. It's a strong acid and it's a good electrolyte, and this is the one that we use in car batteries. What are the hazards of the use of sulfuric acid? Do you understand the meaning of the word hazard? Hazard means the danger of using sulfuric acid. Remember that sulfuric acid is very corrosive, harmful to the skin, so care must be taken when handled. So if we say a precaution, that would be wear gloves or wear eye protection. Okay, that's the end of the course. You just need to do one more set of questions and we're done. Okay.